Fox News alert on this Tuesday morning after the holiday weekend as our economy reopens along with many other countries. The markets are up big this morning on positive news over vaccines. Dow up 675 points. So it looks like things are turning a corner, at least for now. The Wall Street Journal featuring this headline this morning: for economy, worst of coronavirus shutdowns may be over. Recovering air travel, hotel bookings, and mortgage applications are among the early signs the U.S. economy is coming back to life. Joining us now, Larry Kudlow, White House economic advisor. Larry, good morning and welcome. And it feels so good to be able to talk positively about the reopening of the country. The stock market is rising. Larry, the S&P 500 back above 3,000. Since March 5th, we have not seen that level. The Dow back above 25,000. I won't ask you to predict where the stock market is going because I know the answer. You won't do it. But has the economy hit bottom amid this pandemic?
I think it's possible. I mean, I think you're in a turning zone phase. As we've said time and again, the second quarter is going to be a rough quarter. It's a contraction, pandemic contraction, a lot of hardship on the unemployment claims, a lot of heartbreak there. But these signs, and I think the market is rallying on these signs, Sandra, these signs are showing a lot more glimmers of hope and growth, and the signs seem to be mounting. You know, on the consumer confidence number, just a point, the number was up a bit, which is good. But in 6 months, they have a 6-month expectations component, and that's where you see a big takeoff in consumer confidence. And I think folks see that the virus, first of all, is flattening on its way down. They see business opening. They themselves feel like going out and spending. These are all very positive developments that will show up in the data. Perhaps in July or August. The third quarter could be the fastest growing quarter in U.S. history. The whole second half is going to be very strong as we reopen the economy and as Americans come back to recovery. This is a transition to recovery, and as the President said, it's a transition to greatness.
Larry, you're talking about positive, hopeful signs. A lot of people are looking for those hopeful signs, and yet you've got some blue state governors that the President has called out before. He believes they're slow walking on reopening parts of the economy, perhaps to hurt him politically. Wall Street Journal editorial today, the blue state lockdown blues. The slow reopening of liberal states will hurt the national recovery. They say California, New York, Illinois, New Jersey, as you know, make up 30% of the national economy, so their business carnage will affect farmers, meat processors, truckers, manufacturers, and suppliers nationwide. What's your message to some of these states like California that are moving more slowly?
Well, look, these are state decisions. These are governor's decisions. Personally, and the President has said, I'd like to see the reopening. I want to see the businesses reopen, and then the job numbers are going to come in much, much better. But it's got to be done safely. It just has to be done safely. I can't make that judgment. I'll let the President make that judgment. He has a more bird's eye view, perhaps, than I do. But I think those governors know that folks want to go back to work and folks want to restart their businesses. And there are tiny signs, even in some of those states, of a reopening. So we'll see. It's got to be done safely. You got to have the social distancing. You got to have the testing and so forth. Nobody disagrees with that. I'd like to see it fast, but it's got to be safe. You know, people, we believe in personal freedom. And a lot of people want to exercise their own personal freedom and get out there and start shopping again, start running their small businesses again. So we'll see. But we're making good progress. The point is, at the margin, Ed, at the margin, we're making very good progress. And you've got these glimmers of hope. You've got these green shoots. 10 years ago, I used to call them mustard seeds that would grow up into a major recovery. I think the same thing is happening now, only it's going to be on a larger scale.
But Larry, you as an economist and advisor to the President have the very difficult job of planning for the unknowns and the uncertainties that are out there. BlackRock chief investment officer this morning saying that while he doesn't think that the U.S. stock market is too optimistic at this point, what he fears is the vulnerabilities, considering our sky high unemployment in the country right now because of this pandemic, the uncertainty over the vaccine, a possible second wave of the coronavirus. What do you believe are those hidden vulnerabilities for our economy?
Well, you talk to our health experts, they'll say, we know so much more, we have so much more experience now. And let's also go, we're really doing lightning speed, first of all, on the development of vaccines, and then the development of therapies, medicines, which I think are really, really important. I think people would be happier even to know that if they get the virus, there's a medicine, a therapy that they can take to deal with it right away. I think that would help. And the scientists, the biotech companies, the pharmaceuticals who have been working with the administration, President has always stressed the private sector component. That's part of the brilliance of his economic thinking. They're going to probably provide therapies very soon. And regarding vaccines, it takes a little longer. But again, we've deregulated, so we're moving at warp speed on that as well. Look, I can't douse every risk, Sandra. I can't, say this won't happen, that won't happen. All I'm saying is we're giving our best shot, and events are moving rapidly in the right direction. That's the absolute key point.
Larry, on the question of more stimulus for this economy, I know the president's had kind of a wait-and-see attitude. We've already done a lot. Obviously, you've seen both parties come together on that. You want to see the money wash through the system instead of spending more immediately. But Rob Portman has an idea that I wonder if you think might make sense. A $450 a week back-to-work bonus for people. What he's trying to get at, as you know better than anyone, is that there are a lot of people not going back to work because they're getting more money on unemployment than they would if they went back to work. Is a back-to-work bonus the seeds of something down the road that you might get behind?
It may well be. It's something we're looking at very carefully. Senator Portman has a good idea. He understands incentives and disincentives. The trouble with the $600 plus up, and maybe we needed it in that emergency period, but frankly, it's a major disincentive to go back to work, and we don't want that. We want people to go back to work. So we're looking at that. I think the basic point is correct. I would also add the president is a firm supporter of the payroll tax holiday to year end for the worker side. That's an incentive because it would increase after-tax income by 7.6%. We've already done it on the business side. Now we can do it on the worker side. So there'll be some combination. I frankly do not believe the $600 plus up will survive the next round of talks, but I think we'll have substitutes to deal with that issue.
Larry, so much before this pandemic hit was, when it came to the stock market, was watching our tensions with China and the ongoing trade deal with China. Can you update us this morning on where things stand?
Well, sure. Look, to piece it out or back out the individual pieces here, the trade deal is intact. And our leaders, Ambassador Lighthizer, Secretary Mnuchin, have been in conversation with Vice Premier Liu He. The trade deal is intact for the moment, or so the Chinese say. So that's okay, and we'll see whether they implement it on schedule or not. However, there's a number of issues where China has done very badly, very, very badly. I mean, they've concealed non-transparency, is putting it mildly. They've basically concealed facts and information about the origins of the coronavirus. I think that's had global implications, which has made this whole story worse than it needed to be. We tried to send our best scientists over there to help and compile data and try to find the real nexus of the virus, and China for a long time wouldn't let us do that, so we lost tremendous ground. That's very, very unfortunate. What they're doing right now in Hong Kong, by taking over the national security, which really, one country, two systems. Essentially, it looks to me like it's going to be one country and one system, and it could be a very totalitarian system. We don't know yet, but the national security measures they're going to take to Hong Kong is a very disturbing matter. On other things, like financial services and investment, China companies don't play by the rules. They don't satisfy the SEC or the Public Accounting Board. They are full of fraud. Again, they conceal information. They don't pass muster on any of the blue sky laws, and they have to be able to allow us Americans, if they come to our exchange, they must comply with normal accounting standards. They won't do that. So there's a number of issues and problems, and they will be held accountable for all of this as time goes on.
Larry,
so,
just one quick
yes,
follow-up on
but
that.
There's
though.
a lot of other issues. Yes.
Is the president willing to back out of the deal?
I don't know. I'm not going to speak for the president on that point. I assume you mean the trade deal. He has said recently that he's not. But on the other hand, he's also said, I mean, he's so miffed at what the Chinese have done regarding the virus and other matters that the trade deal is not as important to him as it once was. These other matters. I mean, look, the cost and lives lost because of China's concealment and misinformation and collusion with the WHO, that is a major cost in human terms and, of course, economic terms. A lot of that could have been avoided if they had come clean right away, and I think that's the president's biggest concern. I will let him speak, of course, on the final policy decisions, but I can tell you that's the background music right now.
Larry, as we close this conversation, can you give us an idea, big picture, where you think we are? Because I was just, as you were answering Sandra, looking at some comments you made to the Washington Post late last week, which I don't want to say they were pessimistic, but you had the right caveats of concern. You said the numbers coming in are not good in terms of the pandemic and the virus. In fact, they're downright bad in most cases, but we're seeing some glimmers, perhaps. There's a lot of heartbreak there. There's a lot of hardship, a lot of anxiety, very difficult. You're still saying some of that, but this morning you sound very optimistic. Am I reading you right? Where do you think the president believes we are in dealing with this pandemic and turning this economy around?
I think I might have needed more caffeine for that Washington Post sentence with my friend Bob Costa. By the way, I made the same points then. I thought that headline was kind of unfair. I talked about the new glimmers of hope, the green shoots. I cited the Congressional Budget Office forecast, which is almost 20% growth in the second half of the year and 4% growth in 2021. I mean, I cited all those positives. But look, Ed, I have to acknowledge the pandemic has taken its toll. The mitigation policies and the shutdown has taken its toll on the economy, and there is a lot of hardship. Absolutely. And I regret that very, very much. So in that sense, I think I'm just being real and dealing with the reality in the very, very short term. On the other hand, down the road, things look much, much better. I noticed one of my erstwhile pals from the other side of the aisle, Mr. Jason Furman, an Obama supporter, essentially came up with the same scenario that Kevin Hassett and I have been talking about, a very strong third quarter, very strong fourth quarter. And I don't know, I applaud him for being real and honest about it. But, yeah, I don't know. The Post needed a better headline, Ed. Maybe I needed another cup of coffee.
Sounds like you had more coffee this morning, Larry. We appreciate you coming on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Larry.